Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Leniel Writes. How did I get here? In this episode, I'll share the journey of how and why I became a Christian, the incredible opportunities my faith opened for me to serve, my transformative experience in the military, and how these pivotal moments shaped the person I am today. Every detail I share comes from the heart. No fabrications, no exaggerations. Are you ready to step into my world and uncover the stories that define Leniel Writes? If so, buckle up and let's begin. The premise of my book, The Undoing of July Park, is rooted in identity, sacrifice, and love. Let's start with identity. At its core, identity is about knowing who you are. Many of us remember being asked a familiar question as kids, one that some still ponder today. What do you want to be when you grow up? I didn't know how to answer that question. Whether it came from my family, friends, teachers, or even strangers who barely knew me, I was at a loss. When strangers asked me, I asked my mom, "Why is that person asking me what I want to be when I grow up? I don't even know them." When I didn't have a real answer, I'd just say something to move the conversation along. I want to be a firefighter, or I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a police officer, or I want to be a pastor. None of it felt genuine. I was just trying to satisfy the moment. My parents, though Korean, weren't particularly strict about me or my brother pursuing prestigious careers as doctors or lawyers. If you haven't listened to my first episode, my parents are from Korea. I can't say for sure if Korean parents are as focused on elite schools and high-status professions as, say, Chinese or other Asian parents, but my dad's focus was different. He wanted me to excel academically. That was his ultimate goal for me. Focus on your studies, get excellent grades, and the rest will follow, he used to say. My mom, on the other hand, was my unwavering supporter. She never told me to study, get good grades, or follow a specific path. She simply encouraged me no matter what. My dad's influence had already conditioned me to prioritize my studies. After school, I'd come home, finish my homework, eat dinner with the family, and then go back to studying. Sometimes I helped my mom with chores too. This routine became my normal throughout my primary and secondary school. But getting less than an A didn't sit well with my dad. I remember bringing home a few B's and facing what he called tough love. He would pull out the punishment stick, tell me to stretch out my hands and hold them up. Then came the sharp, stinging slaps on my palms, one for every B. It wasn't easy, but it was his way of teaching discipline and high expectations. When we left our dad in Los Angeles to start a better life in Washington State, my mom made a promise. That would be the last time Dad ever laid a hand on us. She kept her word. But by then, I was already conditioned to strive for excellence. Anything less than an A felt like failure, as if my dad's voice would haunt me in my dreams, calling me a terrible student, a terrible son. Getting excellent grades wasn't just a goal. It felt like survival. The move to Washington turned out to be extraordinary in many ways. Shortly after we arrived, my mom met a local restaurant owner who quickly befriended her and, by extension, us. When I turned 15, he taught me the value of hard work. He showed me how to operate a lawnmower and other landscaping tools. He owned several properties in Burlington, and whenever I wanted to make quick cash, I'd mow lawns, trim bushes, or edge driveways. Eventually, I graduated to working as a dishwasher at his restaurant, scrubbing dishes, pots and pans for extra cash. What I didn't learn during this time, however, was the value of money, how to save it, invest it, or make it last. At 16, I was earning fast cash and spending it just as fast. Most of it went toward books, gas for the car, CDs, and the occasional sweet treat. By my senior year of high school, I landed my first official W-2 job working at a movie theater. I remember it vividly because The Matrix had just been released, and I probably watched that movie in the theater at least 10 times. Before moving on to the next chapter of my story, I need to rewind a little and talk about faith, because faith has always been a big part of my identity. My mom came from a Christian home and practiced her faith daily, bringing my brother and me along for the journey. We attended church every Sunday, made friends there, and spent summers and winters at church camps. Christianity played a massive role in shaping who I am. At 13, during a summer church camp, the pastor invited anyone who wanted to accept Jesus into their life to come forward. I stepped up, said the prayer, and accepted Jesus. Not long after that, I attended my first Christian concert, Stephen Curtis Chapman's Heaven in the Real World. That concert changed everything for me. I decided right then and there that I wanted to learn to play the acoustic guitar and play it like Stephen. With the help of my youth pastor, I picked up the guitar and began learning. A few friends from youth group joined in, but I took to it quickly. I practiced day and night, sometimes until my fingers bled. People told me superglue helped with calluses, but I didn't have any. I just toughed it out. By the time I was 18, I was playing guitar, singing, and performing with the church band. That chapter of my life wasn't just about music. It was about finding purpose, building community, and discovering my identity through faith and perseverance. After graduating high school, I didn't have any plans to go to college. I don't remember how this opportunity presented itself, but it did. My church put up a flyer for India missions trip through Youth with a Mission. The hardest part about going on a missions trip is asking for donation support. My church helped pay for some of it. I tried to raise the last bit of it, but was unsuccessful. My mom, she helped pay for the rest. The entire missions team came from Virginia and were at least 18 years old or slightly older. I was the youngest in the group, and I almost didn't make the cut because of my age. I had to be 18 to travel overseas. Turned out that I was going to turn 18 while we were en route to New Delhi, India, by way of South Korea. So, I turned 18 at the beginning of our trip, and it was full steam ahead. India was absolutely stunning. We traveled to the Punjab region and ministered to the people there and local schools. By the way, I didn't play my guitar at all for the entire trip. I brought it with me, but never had a chance to play it. I got sick, like really sick halfway through the trip. My stomach couldn't take the Indian food, and I was stuck on mango fruit diet for most of the trip. During our last week in India, we traveled to many famous landmarks like Taj Mahal, Fort Agra, Old Delhi. India was beautiful. I hope I can get back one day and see other parts of the country. After we returned from India, it was decision time. Enroll in a 4-year university or join the military. I chose the Air Force. My journey wasn't straightforward though. I wasn't accepted on the first try. I had hearing issues, which required me to petition the state governor, Jay Inslee, for a medical waiver. To my surprise, Governor Inslee approved my request and even wrote a glowing letter of recommendation. With this support, I got the green light. In September 1999, I shipped out for basic training. Basic training and technical school were grueling, to say the least. Though I'd been taught the value of hard work and discipline years earlier, nothing could have fully prepared me for the intensity. I was alienated, isolated, and pushed to my mental and physical limits. Still, I endured the 7.5 weeks of basic training, emerging 30 pounds lighter and feeling stronger than ever. Next came technical training. Based on my ASVAB scores, I was offered a few career options, but it didn't really matter. The Air Force chose for me. I became an Air Force chef. I stayed in San Antonio, Texas for training, where I learned everything about Air Force services, from running dining facilities to managing mortuary services. When it came time for my first duty assignment, none of my preferences were selected, but it wasn't all bad. I was stationed at Spangdahlem Air Base in Germany, nestled near Bitburg, the home of the Bitburger beer. The base was beautiful, set in a serene rural area. As soon as I arrived, I connected with the base chapel, where I met a wonderful Catholic chaplain who introduced me to the navigators. They became my second family during my time in Germany, and we remain close to this day. My 2 years in Germany flew by. I was stationed there during 9/11, and I'll never forget the profound silence and collective mourning that swept through the base in the aftermath. After Germany, I received my next assignment, Fairchild Air Force Base, just northwest of Spokane, Washington, near the small city of Airway Heights. True to who I am, I got involved with the local church community as soon as I arrived. Shout out to First Assemblies of God Spokane. It was there I met one of my closest friends, Kyle. Together we embarked on a musical journey that I'll share more about in another episode. Kyle stood by my side as we played gigs and recorded music. One of our songs, Closer, even became a minor hit, racking up nearly 10,000 plays on SoundCloud. I often found myself driving along I-90 from Spokane to Seattle to visit my mom and family. Being stationed just 4 hours from home was a blessing. In 2003, however, I faced a pivotal decision: stay in the Air Force or separate. While my commander and colleagues strongly encouraged me to continue my military career, I felt it was time to say goodbye. I wanted to use my GI Bill to pursue a degree and transition back into civilian life. The last 20 years have flown by in the blink of an eye. After separating from the military, I dabbled in various jobs. I helped my brother with his college business program, student painters, and took a position as a shift supervisor at Starbucks. A year later, I left Starbucks and re-enlisted in the Air Force as a reservist. During that time, I connected with some amazing Christian friends who also shared my passion for music. Through their support, I landed a job as a lab manager at Microsoft in 2007. Post-military life was largely defined by my pursuit of music. By the time I started at Microsoft, I had written over a dozen songs and was determined to make a name for myself as a musician. But after several disappointing trips to Nashville and countless dead ends, I reluctantly gave up on my dreams of breaking into the industry. Then, just when I thought my music journey had ended, I was drawn back to the scene at a local church in Bothell. I played there as if it were a full-time job, except unpaid. It felt like I was trapped in an endless cycle. My music career wasn't taking off, I was spending countless hours volunteering at church, and I was working a 40-hour job during the week. To top it off, I was still single through all of this, but that's a story for another day. I'll save the tale of how I met the love of my life, and now my spouse of 6 years, for a future podcast. Before my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, I spent a few months with him in Las Vegas. The arrangement was that I would live with him while attending UNLV. I enrolled and applied for the nursing program, but I still needed to complete some prerequisites before being considered. It only took one semester, just 3 months, for me to realize I couldn't stay. My dad didn't seem to want company, let alone his son. After the semester ended, my dad and I packed up and drove from Las Vegas to Seattle, and that was the end of my time with him. Little did I know, cancer had been eating away at him for years. He never told anyone. We only found out about his stage 4 diagnosis later. I vividly remember the video call that changed everything. He was lying in bed, reduced to skin and bones, his voice hoarse and weak. It was a painful sight. My mom flew down to Las Vegas first and spent a month sorting through his apartment. It was an overwhelming mess. A month later, I joined her to help organize my dad's belongings and give her a chance to rest. My dad had been admitted to the VA hospital by then, and that would be the last time he saw the outside world. We managed to transfer him to the VA hospital in Seattle, but after just a month, he entered hospice care. He spent another couple of months there before he passed away. Looking back, I realized that I am the man I am today because of my upbringing, the discipline and resilience the military instilled in me, my faith, and the support of family and good friends. My identity was shaped long ago, but for years I struggled to truly know who I was. Even now I occasionally ask myself, who am I? But in those moments, I am gently reminded that He has called me by name. God knows who I am, and He knows who you are too. Thank you for tuning into my podcast. If you're listening for the first time or the second time, I truly appreciate you. Bless you. Don't forget to check out my previous episode if you missed it, and come back soon for more on Leniel Writes.